Salvage Sunday, which is a show that we are doing every once in a while on a Sunday, of course. Of course, if you're watching this video at a different date, hey, Monday can also be a thing. Anyway, Salvage Sunday, what is the idea here? One of you sends me in a save game on Discord, and you are potentially in a situation where you think by myself, how on earth am I gonna get out of this? Now, we've done several of these in the past, and this one was sent in by Commander Sol, who said, oh my god, I have opened the L gates, and of course it is a Tempest. Good economy, good fleet, good tech. Tempest is coming in an overwhelming force. I could probably take it, but I do not have the time to strategize. Well, Commander Sol, you have come to the right place, because I think I found a way out of your predicament. First of all, as you can see, we're playing as the Loken Mechanist, which is one of the default species in the game. And on top of that, Commander Sol has taken, he has opened up the L gates. Now, he's got a fleet of about 60k. There's Titans in there. So let's quickly have a look here at what sort of setup we have in our fleet manager. So we have our Battle Fleet Alpha. They are psychic cyborgs for some reason. That right there is a nice combination. And the main thing that we need to do here is figure out whether or not he has decided to put any sort of flak abilities on his ship. There's Guardian Point Defense here, as well as Stormfire autocannons. However, due to the fact that the Great Tempest uses the following. It uses quite a lot of nanite fighters, which do a fair amount of damage. We're going to need to be able to counter that. So first of all, he's stuck in a fight with probably around 2, maybe 3 fleets. Now that's overwhelming, of course. We want to make sure that this is slowed down to a reasonable degree.
Complete. Opening comms.
Ooh, we got a protectorate request. Interesting. Sure. But yeah, so the main thing here is we want to disengage from this fight as soon as we can. We'll be able to do so in 12 days, because just because the Great Tempest exists does not necessarily mean that the Great Tempest is something that you're going to need to destroy. For those of you that are watching this on console, Great Tempest was introduced with distant stars, so this is not something that you need to be worried about at this point. Okay, so we are ready to retreat. We have some losses here. We've got a couple of disengagements. Overall, we're pretty good. I'm expecting that we've lost a couple of battleships and a bunch of cruisers. So let's retreat our fleet here and let the Great Tempest do some work for us. Now, this particular scenario, it looks like Commander Sol has gotten himself in a rather fascinating scenario where he is stuck within his own part of space. There's a fallen empire over here. There's a bunch of other species over here that he can't really do anything against. And he's kind of stuck. So what he's done is he's grabbed himself a wormhole, gone across space, and then went to this here, a black hole, where he, for some reason, decided to build a matter decompressor this far out. Personally, I would have done it in my own space, but that's more for safety reasons, because the investment of a matter compressor is pretty significant. However, we're going to be falling back most likely towards this system. In the meantime, we're going to need to do a little bit of adjustment here. Now, taking a look at this station is that there's a lot of trade hubs here. Now, what do trade hubs do? Trade hubs increase the collection range of anything nearby. If we take a look here, we can actually see there's only one system that we could collect from, which is the Lithurian Vortex itself, which has 11 trade goods on it. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to strip off all of these trade hubs and put nothing but guns on there. We're going to leave one trade hub on there just in case for later on, but we don't need this off-world trading company here at all. This is very much a defensive position. We want to make sure that this is a strong little scenario. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to add a bunch of defense platforms here, because the Great Tempest will try to come sooner or later, and we're going to need to build a new defense platform design here. Let's put some point defense on this, mostly flak cannons, because this Great Tempest uses quite a lot of fighter craft, so we want to be able to take those out, and then a mixture of plasmas and gauss cannons to mix those up. So first we're going to put a bunch of plasmas on there, and this is going to be Tempest's Alpha. So this will be designed purely against armor, and then we're going to build a version that is purely designed against shields. So we're going to put a bunch of gauss cannons on there as well. So this is going to be our beta variant. Now with those now up and running, it looks like the fleet has survives. It's going to come back towards our base. And we are going to need to build a bunch of defense platforms here. We actually want to remove the Zithrix class in general from our lineup because it is going to get in the way a little bit. So we're just going to keep it like that. And we're going to build 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 defense platforms on this station. That will increase the firepower of this place quite significantly. On top of that, we will dock our fleet with the station and just sit right on top of the L gate, because the L gate will be the single point of interest. Now, what did I say earlier about using the Great Tempest to do the work for us? Well, the Great Tempest, if you unlock the gate, you will have 1 year of time where no Great Tempest fleet will try to get into your space. And that right there is something you want to keep in mind. It's very important that we are very, very careful with that. In 1 year's time, they will most likely send 1 or 2 fleets through the gateway, but we will have a lot of firepower right on top of them. In addition, though, in the meantime, if I can find them, there should be a few other gateways sitting out, like this one over here. There's an L gate down in here. And there should be one, I believe, up in here. Yeah, there it is. So the Great Tempest is now going to rampage through a bunch of these territories. Now, this is a vassal under my empire. It's a Precati interstellar technocracy. They are but a sacrifice for our impending civilization, because, well, we are going to see a lot of these refugees from these worlds coming home to us, and that's fine. But in the meantime, the Rexodemian Confederacy, the Panaxa Star Hunters, these guys, the Imperium, etc., they're going to have a lot of trouble, because it means that the Great Tempest will try to bum rush their space. Whilst the only entry point that we have anything to do with, which is, of course, this one, will not cause all that many problems, because, well, our fleet is in position here. So that right there is pretty great. So we're going to hold off for quite some time until we can make a foothold in terminal egress, which is a standard start position within the Great Tempest space, or at least the L cluster, and then slowly over time start to colonize this entire thing, take down the control station in this system, and then actually use this entire area as a sort of lifeboat, because sooner or later the enemy will come as the crisis will kick in. I would not be surprised if we're going to see a contingency style approach, and we want to make sure that we can defend terminal egress as well as possible. In the meantime, let's have a look here at our economy, what kind of species we have. Society research-wise, we're currently researching synthetic evolution, which is good. Hypercoms forms, always get those for the Unity. If we look at our Unity, we've got a full tradition tree. And it's only 100 years into the game, which is quite impressive that you've managed to get this quickly. We got technological ascendancy, that increases our rare technology drop. Imperial prerogative, more admin cap. We don't really need it at the moment because our admin cap is 240 and we are at 270 in total, so we can expand quite a lot. Arcology project, we don't actually have any ecumenopoli, which is interesting. So we're going to need to build one of those. The flesh is weak. Voidborn, which is nice. Sadly, not master builders, because master builders would have allowed us to turn the habitats even stronger. World Shaper for those Gaia worlds. Galactic Wonders, of course, for all the cool buildings, and synthetic evolution to improve our species and turn it into a synthetic race. So yeah, as of right now, we're just going to fall back, because there's really no reason for us to try and push through and sacrifice all of our fleets against the Great Tempest. Sure, it's only 100 years in, there's more than enough time. For instance, this station over here, we can build this outpost. We can grab this entire batch of space because we have more than enough admin cap. And on top of that, we should probably take a look at a potential place to build our first Ecumenopolis. This ocean world over here seems to be pretty good for it. It's got a lot of tiles, 24 tiles in total, a couple of blockers, 5 of them. This could be a size 25 Ecumenopolis, and that right there is something that we are going to do. Sounds like a great time. Let's see if we can find our... What does our species even look like? Okay, so we are tiny rat things, apparently. So, Ultra Racket Tomb World preference. Oh wow, Deviance, Fleeting. Oh wow, that's not great at all. So we're going to actually need to do a whole bunch of other stuff as well to get this species situated. But in the meantime, we're just going to build ourselves our first Ecumenopolis. There we go. And on top of that, there's a lot of other stuff that we can do whilst the entire galaxy is being rampaged by the Great Tempest. We are far away from any threat. They are not going to come near us anytime soon. We got a fallen empire in the way. We got some marauders in the way. This area is completely choked in by one spot. We got a single vassal over here. There is another species that is not really going to cause any problems. How strong are they? They are pathetic compared to everybody around them. We do have a defensive pact, so we can't really do anything all that much with them. But in the meantime, we do have a lot of availability in terms of building stations and stuff like that. So we're going to go and slowly but steadily upgrade this here empire and make a powerhouse that is going to be probably one of the strongest empires in the galaxy. In addition, considering all of our tradition trees are done and all of our ascension perks are done, it means that we have access to our ambitions. And that right there is pretty damn awesome. Looks like we do not have enough unity in the bank right now. We need 8k to do so, but getting 310 per month is pretty damn decent. And in addition, this is something you want to do as well. You want to get the education campaign, the recycling campaign, and the healthcare campaign just to improve our population slowly over time. And with 865 influence, we can probably just go for research grants. Let's do diplomatic grants, and let's do production targets because we need more minerals. We have a bunch of species that are psionic, cybernetic, thrifty, and they are Toon World preferenced, the Ultra Racket, but they have a bunch of really, really bad traits. So we're gonna go and just remove all of those. Man, this is crazy good. All right, so this is our species, the Ultra Racket. We want to make sure that they do not use up as much habitation, I believe, is the one we're looking for. But we also want to make them super intelligent. Consumer pop goods, conformist. Where is the one? There we go. Communal is the one that we want. And on top of that, if we can have a unity bonus as well. So we'll just create this template. We'll just quickly apply it and make sure that this empire, this species will be extremely good very quickly. Then we have a bunch of robots. We're not going to do anything with the robots at the moment. We're going to wait for our species to be in a position where we can actually do something a little bit more productive. We're going to remove this gene clinic, though. Usually you don't want to build a gene clinic this late in the game. You always want to build it very early on, maybe your very first building, because it takes a long time to offset the cost of this thing. And you want to be very, very careful about this. And we are going to build a Ministry of Production. We've set up a decent little empire setup here. We fixed a bunch of stuff. We're moving forward very quickly. We're going to put some flak cannons on these ships. Maybe some Stormfire autocannons. There we go. So this is going to be flak boat. I think that will be a good approach here. And we'll just add that to our main fleet here if we can. It doesn't look like it, so we're going to just remove a bunch of these cruisers. Very slowly but steadily, we're going to be phasing that one out because we want to have as many XL weapons on this as possible. We're going to put the Giga Cannon on there, mainly because we don't have anything better at the moment. So there we go. What can we do here? Can we put an afterburner on there? Advanced reactor booster. There we go. So at least it will be actually, maybe this is probably a better approach. There we go. And of course, we need to make sure it's an artillery because we want to make sure we use the longest possible range on this thing as possible. Does not have enough power. We already talked about this. So shield capacitor, advanced reactor booster, that sort of thing. And once again, the Sapient Combat computer, the artillery computer, very important in this particular case. Are we going to have the ability to actually... Oh, as he says, there is a Great Tempest fleet coming in, and us actually holding steady here.
Destroyed.
Us holding steady in this particular system is incredibly strong. How long? 1800 days, regenerative health tissue? Okay. What did we lose here? So we lost a single defense platform, 2 destroyers, and a cruiser. The cruiser we will immediately remove from the fleet. And we will start adding more battleships to the fleet here. The Titan is also not necessary, I feel. So that was was that a beta? That was a beta class that we just lost. So over time, this is going to be a huge fortress that's pretty much going to be impenetrable to pretty much anything. In the meantime as well, let's see if we can do the following. Can we build a gateway in this system? Yes, we can. So we're going to build a gateway in this system, mainly because the wormhole is pretty far away from the inbound on this station. And we want to also make sure that we have a gateway in the center of our empire as well. And we're going to be very, very careful about these sort of things.
Construction project
This is all happening
concluded.
just fine. The consumer goods are looking good. We've got a lot of money.
Improvement
And,
project concluded.
oh, wait, is that the Ultra Rockets? Yeah, the Ultra Rockets have now been improved, which means they will use up less space. They will research faster. And we'll generally have a huge bonus to pretty much anything. Alright, so ambition. We want to go for scientific revolution as well as omnifarious acquisition. Will to power, not all that great, I feel. Plus 10 influence, whilst a huge bonus, I don't feel is absolutely necessary. Can we move you back? Yes, we can. Actually, what we're going to be doing is we're going to move them over here because there's a bunch of research in the system that we could potentially use. So that right there is nice. How is our... some more admin cap? Why am I getting so much admin cap? Well, admin cap, first of all, in the beginning of the game, you don't get enough of it. But we're gonna look at colonizing this particular area. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit and see where we end up and see how our local mechanists are moving. It's currently 2310. We've played for about 9 years in game. Let's see where this is gonna end up. So this is the bit in the video where I suggest that you could have potentially an empire that you would like to see salvaged. Yeah, sometimes you get stuck at things and you don't know what to do. How do you get out of a situation? Well, that's why Salvage Sunday exists. Head over towards the Discord server and check in there. There's a channel called Salvage Sunday, and submit your save file, and if you're lucky, I will take a look at your empire that is in dire need of salvaging. Looking forward to see you out there. In the meantime, if you like this video, subscribing is cool as well. But yeah, we're gonna move on, and let's see if we can do something about this here Great Tempest. Alright, so let's skip forward by about 20 to 30 years. There are some good things and there are some bad things about waiting when it comes to any sort of crisis developing within space, and specifically in this particular case when it is the Great Tempest. Now, slowly but steadily, I've expanded the Empire a little bit. There is a bunch of growth going on over here in the north. We put some gateways into places for fast reinforcements and all that stuff. Now, what is the big positive about the Great Tempest? I'll let you know this. If we go to our policies window and we look at our refugee status, our refugee status is set to refugees welcome. What does this mean? If refugees are welcome, any place that gets ransacked by the Great Tempest, the refugees or the remaining populations from those locations are going to go look for a place where they can stay. Now, I just happen to have a large amount of planets with a large amount of jobs available. This means that I can use the mid-game crisis as a way of massively increasing my population, whilst at the same time strengthening my economy and weakening everybody around me. So if we're looking, for instance, now at my species tab, we have got quite a lot of species of Xenos that have decided to come into our empire and work for the greater good. Are we a bunch of blueberries? No, we are definitely not. But the greater good in this particular case is definitely something that we want. So, and we also, of course, have uplifted our species to something a little bit more robotic, which means that everybody now hates us, but we're very rapidly growing. And on top of that, we've got double jointed pops, which means that we've reduced pop housing usage across the board. Basically, every single major species within our empire have some sort of bonus to reduced housing, which means that we can actually focus on something a little bit more useful. We're also slowly but steadily expanding all of our worlds to get more minerals. Why do we need more minerals? Well, we need to be able to power up our urban worlds, our ecumenopolae, in order to crank out more foundry arcologies, which then in turn generate tons and tons of alloys. We have two of these in Monopoly. The second one is currently building. And of course, Alba, the son of Kreb, is for some reason a psychic robot. A synthetic psychic robot who also has a bad case of the Arrested Development. Rip Rooney. But yeah, that's going to be done in 10 years' time. In addition, whilst the Great Tempest was rampaging through space, I've completely rebuilt this entire area to be an absolute fortress, and on top of that, we've built the matter compressor. It's not in a good place here. It is, of course, right at an inbound gate into L space, and that by itself is not all that great because it does mean it's in a little bit of a weakened position. You usually want to put these in the middle of your empire, far, far away from any sort of inbounds, wormholes, gateways, choke points, and that sort of thing, because if an enemy manages to get these, or at least conquer these and take them off of you, it's going to be a huge impact on your economy. So right now we're actually generating a reasonable amount of minerals. In addition, if we look at our species as well, our default rights were set initially to socialized welfare. We've turned that into academic privilege. This means that we will be generating a lot more science within our empire, and that's there is something that we would want. Beacon of Liberty, of course, generates a lot of unity. We get 1k unity a month, which translates to a lot of these ambitions. I've gone for Scientific Revolution, which increases the research speed by 20%. Architectural Renaissance for those mega structures. Omnifarious Acquisition, which is arguably one of the best ones in the game because of that 33% monthly mineral bonus, which in combination with the matter decompression gets rather ridiculous. And of course, the Grand Fleet. With the Grand Fleet, we have built a secondary combat fleet, which is Battle Fleet Gamma. It's got 20 battleships in it, a bunch of flak boats, and a ton of corvettes that we've upgraded to use the new Devastator torpedoes. And with this fleet of 200,000 fleet power, I feel that we could potentially start clearing out the L cluster. Now, why would we want to clear out the L cluster? Well, the L cluster has unique resources that we want to have. Before we send our fleet in, we want to make sure that we have a science ship on standby, because we need a science ship to survey that area of space as soon as we can. There we go. So we're going to send in you and set you to passive. Move you over here.
Research concluded.
So we're sending in our fleet into the L cluster. So we got 2 fleets here. It's a relatively large amount. There are battleships galore. Did I actually upgrade those to the new... Yeah, they're all focused arc emitters, so there is about 40 of them on the field. They will one-shot pretty much anything that's here. There is a single shoal here as well, and that is pretty much it. That is kind of surprising that there's only one shoal. And we've immediately cleared terminal egress. And that right there is obviously complete and totally unnecessary in terms of sheer amount of firepower that we've brought in. In addition, our technology growth is insane. We're pretty much getting new technology every single month. 7 months in this particular case. Admin cap is completely ridiculous. We have an admin cap of 345. We will continuously keep on growing that through the administrative efficiency technology. That will give us plus 15 admin cap every single time we get it, which is amazing. It is probably one of the best things that you can do within the game. And we're actually going to set multiple science ships to survey these systems, and we're also going to send in a bunch of construction ships. Why are we doing all these construction ships and these science ships in here? Well, there is a couple of good reasons for it. First of all, we're going to need to reinforce these corner areas because we need to make sure these shoals do not do anything naughty whilst we're in this system. Basically, the Great Tempest will most likely try to reinforce this area. Every few years, they spawn new ships and new fleets. We're getting more admin cap, and of course, proclamation broadcasts, which gives an edict duration increase of 10% for every single time that we use it. So, for instance, let's say we want to have these ambitions. Normally, they would give us 10 years, but because we've got the technology for it so many times, it's now set to 30 years. Every single time we do a edict,
Construction project concluded.
it will last us 30 years, and that is a huge amount, and you should never underestimate the power of long-term edicts, because they are incredibly good. Now our science ship is in here now. It's going to start, we're sending in several science ships in here basically to survey as fast as we can, because this construction ship is in a very precarious situation. We need to claim this system as fast as we can. Once we've done that, we can build a secondary gateway right next to the standard gateway and make sure that it is connected to the rest of our empire, turn this into a fortress, and basically this becomes our lifeboat. Once we've cleared out the Great Tempest, the entire area will have a ton of planets that we can turn into new Gaia worlds for us to use. And that's also another reason why we keep on going for these administrative capacity bonuses, because there's going to be about 10 Gaia worlds in this particular area of space for us to colonize and become incredibly powerful and basically become the core of our civilization away from our capital area. Now, there were a lot of stations as well that I've slowly but steadily upgraded over time. There were a lot of places that had terrible station setups. They were not completed in any way, shape, or form, but we've got those now. Once the Great Tempest is dead, we can take a look at the Conservators. They're right next door to us. They're Stagnus Ascendancy, Keepers of Knowledge, and all that stuff. And we can slowly but steadily start knocking them down a peg and take their technology, because their economic power is definitely inferior. The fleet power is equivalent. The biggest problem is, of course, their stations. But overall, their fleets are definitely something that we can take on. Once that happens, we will have another problem on our hands, because it means that the other empires will most likely wake up. So for instance, we got the Shard over here. It will most likely wake up. There's no real gateways nearby except for this natural wormhole which goes down in here. There's a couple of gateways here, but I don't think they're going to be causing any problems. Besides, there's another fallen empire over here, and I don't think they're too welcome in this particular area of space. The Shard is potentially a long-term issue, but that's not something we need to worry about as well. In addition, I don't think the Marauders are going to wake up anytime soon, which is rather useful. Okay, so we've managed to survey this area. In the meantime, we are going to put a fresh scientist on this ship. Just a garbage scientist. And we're just going to move him over here and make sure that he gets the hell out of there as soon as he can. So we're going to get another one as well. Just a cheapo one. We don't want to move. We don't want to use our best scientists to go into these systems, because they are going to guaranteed die.
Construction project concluded.
As he says. Okay, so we have one Tempest shoal in here. There will be another one over here, most likely right on the edge of the gate. There it is, and he gets immediately attacked as expected. Yeah, I thought as much. So he gets the mothership shoal in the face. That's their beam cannon. It will instantly knock out the ship. And we didn't send in one of our super expensive scientists to take care of that stuff, which means that, well, we have more stuff to play around with. In addition, Terminal Egress, our capital, secondary capital, is going to have a couple of rather important things. As soon as we have put our station up in here, which should be very soon. Let's take a look. There it is. Okay, so we have managed to take control of this system. We are immediately going to build a gateway right next to the other gateway and start upgrading this starport to the largest possible version. Why are we going to upgrade this starport? Well, we want to make sure that we have a place where we can defend optimally. In addition, I think we have enough resources. We have 25,000 alloys in our bank at the moment, and I think it would be a good idea to do a special upgrade over here. We are going to upgrade our science nexus. Right now we have 3k of science. We want to increase that. Sure, we are getting a ton of science in general, but we're already doing repeatables, and at 150 years into the game, that is a huge friggin' deal, especially on an Iron Man mode game where we are just absolutely ramping through stuff. And in addition, our economy is strong enough that we can just straight up buy alloys if we want to. more admin cap. We want to have more and more and more of that as we're preparing to colonize the L cluster at large.
Research concluded.
Okay, so armor hit points and all that stuff is looking pretty good. Let's fast forward to the point where we are on the cusp of taking down the L cluster core and then take the rest of the cluster. About my discussion from earlier regarding the Great Tempest and it cleaning out a lot of territory. This entire gap over here was cleaned out by the Great Tempest, which means that every single empire in this vicinity is now incredibly weak, which means it's ripe for the taking. And that right there is something that is rather good for us because it means that we can get more vassals, we can get more tributes, etc. And then slowly but steadily grow our empire over time. For instance, these guys over here have gotten quite the pounding, which is that's the Raxodinium Confederacy. We could, for instance, declare war on them quite immediately. And then we have these guys as well, which is this empire, which is reasonably large. It's pretty decent, but all these other ones, like for instance the Honorak Authority, the Urzo Kingdom, the Vhem Imperium, we could easily take all of that stuff. I am not too concerned about that. But in the meantime, would we really want to do that? No, not right now, because it's too much of a hassle. Let them reclaim some space, and then we'll take it. And we will focus on the lifeboat, that is the L cluster. So, with us managing to take a significant chunk of the L cluster and getting access to nanites as well, which means that we can get special resources, it's time to send in our capital fleet straight into the heart of things and go straight for the target at hand, which is of course this station over here. And slowly but steadily we'll be starting to cut through. And considering how many fighter craft are floating around within this context of space, all the flak cannons will allow us to basically slap anything into submissions. That is a lot of devastated torpedoes just hitting there. But still, taking down this station is, of course, key. We need to take it down, because as soon as it dies, everything from the Great Tempest will in fact die. It's a bit of a shame that we can't set priorities when it comes to, hey, attack this target first. But still, hey, what can one do? Because the station is down and we have just won. The Tempest is dead, and all the nanite worlds that are within the Tempest area will now be ours. And that right there is something that I would consider a good thing, because it means that we can now start cleaning things out a little bit, go bounce around a little bit, and take the entire L cluster and turn into a fortress that consists of, well, let's take a look here at what we have available on our expansion planner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 potential worlds that we can colonize of various sizes. Let's take a look. The largest one at 3 20s. Wow, 19, 17 with a whole bunch of cool stuff on it as well. Apparently this nanite world has ceased robot assembly. That is a little bit awkward. But still, we have so many worlds that we can do stuff with now, and that right there is amazing. We have a new place to generate resources, minerals, food, energy, and that sort of thing. And building a giant fortress in here once the final crisis arrives will allow us to basically go anywhere. We got L gates everywhere. We've built a secondary gate right next to the L gate, which means that we can jump back and forth between the core of our empire pretty much instantly, and that's pretty much it. We have effectively won. And whilst this was not the most difficult game to salvage, it is still a good illustration of what you can do by setting yourself goals. Getting the L gate, for instance, is an incredibly good way of setting a goal, because it allows for so much more flexibility in the late game. We have effectively won at this point because we've got the L cluster under control, as well as all the planets therein. So what do you do at this point? Well, start subjugating fallen empires, start getting ready for the final crisis, start getting more tech, spiral out of control completely, get an insane scoreline, which we are already on the top of. Wow, we are actually so much higher than even the number 2, which is a fallen empire. That is insane. It's probably because of our subject empire bonus, which is 13,000. That is pretty crazy. But also our technology level and economic strength. Anyway, we're going to go and wrap it up here for Salvage Sunday. A little bit of a simpler episode. This was not one of those insane ones that people have sent me before. But hey, yeah, sometimes you want something a little bit different. I highly recommend for you to head over towards the Discord, the link for which is below. But in the meantime, I'm going to go and wrap it up here. I'm looking forward to see you out in space and salvaging your ridiculous empires. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and, as always, each other.